couple of things here. I'm in a really unique position going last. And I just have to say, I have learned so much listening to my colleagues on their understanding of myth. Sometimes the machinations of the program keep us from talking about what we all love. So I just want to acknowledge all four of you. Just a wonderful set of presentations. And I hope that you all feel the same. I'm also glad to see all of you together. And I also want to acknowledge those folks who came to the salon last night for what I felt was a really good experience, and that you risked writing meditation on assumptions. So I want to acknowledge you all once again. I thought, what am I going to speak about? And the response came to me, speak about what you're reading right now. And in this case, I'm going to speak to you about rereading. Now, Patrick and I did not call each other about how we were going to dress or what we were going to say, but the segue here is one of those synchronistic moments that needs to be recognized. My title is Myth as a Way to Wonder. So where you ceased, I'm going to pick it up. I'm not sure I'm going to add anything, but I'm going to give it a try. So I was rereading a book, one of my favorite books that I want you to know about. It's by a German philosopher, Joseph Pieper, P-I-E-P-E-R. The title of his book is Leisure, the Basis of Culture. And it's absolutely magnificent. So he's my launch pad for what I'm going to say. In it, he speaks of leisure not as a vacation or taking a break, but rather of establishing, and he brings that beautiful Greek word, temenos, back into the conversation. A word that he derives, that is derived from temnine, which means to cut something. In Latin, it's templem, which is a definite physical space cut off by an enclosure or fencing. Now, this tripwired my imagination because I think the classroom is a temenos. It's a place where we cut other things out in order to let other things that our daily life doesn't allow for. Plato's Academy was one such temenos. The classroom is derived from just such a beginning. It's a sacred place. It's an incubator. It's a place of conversation and in some cases conversion, because both happen. And if things line up rightly, a conversion wherein a field of making and shaping is given a form and a presence. And in that line, I'm echoing some of my colleagues' presentations as well. The classroom for me is a mythic space, and I have been entering the classroom as both student and teacher since I was 6 years old. But the classroom is also a place I like to think of as a place of wonder. When Thomas Aquinas was writing a treatise on Aristotle, he came to the conclusion, this is Aquinas, the philosopher is akin to the poet. Both are concerned with the mirandum, with the wondrous, the astonishing, what arrests us, stops us in our tracks, and then perhaps it moves us to what we begin to love. I want to say that what we love began at some point in wonder. Now, while myths are pre-philosophic, I think they share something profound with philosophy. They philosophize in storied form. Rather than ideas or concepts, myths are plotted narratives that invite, encourage, and persuade us to wonder. So here's a story, almost a parable, to help us out at this juncture. It has to do with animal perception, most specifically with a crow searching out a juicy grasshopper to have for the day's main meal. But the grasshopper has a very powerful defense that it uses against the crow or any other predator. And that powerful defense is stillness. It knows how to be still. The crow cannot discern the grasshopper when the latter is not in motion, even when it is in plain view. Only when it jumps does its form release itself from neighboring shapes. Yet the crow does not even recognize the form of a resting grasshopper, but is only prepared to sense moving things. So if the grasshopper keeps its wit about itself and plays dead, its resting form does not appear in the sense world. It cannot be found even if it's actively sought. Now here's my leap. So it is with explaining personal myth. It, like the grasshopper, lies still, but in plain view. It is very much alive, but invisible in its stillness. Writing, if you'll allow it to be a form of ritual, prods a part of the myth into the open, makes it jump for an instant. Watch when the myth jumps. Because in this motion, we can see the moving form of the myth. It jumps into view for an instant, prodded by the pen of the writing ritual. You gonna let me get away with that? I think the metaphor works if you stay with me. And we snag just a part of this morsel in our beak. Seeing the grasshopper pulls us out of our familiar daily neighborhood of thought and perception. The grasshopper is certainly a form of nourishment, but it is also an occasion for allowing or inviting or instigating us to wonder. It is myth as metaphor. As metaphor, it has the capacity to transport us to another area of consciousness. I'm echoing something Patrick said towards the end of his talk. So that we see more by means of the grasshopper's instigation. Instigation leads to investigation. I'm Irish. I like to play with words, so I hope that one worked for you. Is it right? I don't care. I like the way that it sounded. But not through analysis so much as in wonder. Analysis destroys wonder. Imagining, as Laura was pointing out, opens it up. So, ritual puts the poem in motion. Motion makes something present. The poem is prodded into life by the rod of reading. And what it opens us to is a field of relations, realigned in new ways that make us wonder. So in wondering, we make the grasshopper our own, not someone else's. For us, it jumps with a particular style, with a unique style that we can claim. What I have attempted to describe is myth studies as field work of the most imaginative, organic, and engaging order. This is where I am 20 years into the myth program, thinking about grasshoppers and crows. Is it then any wonder? Thank you.